Hey everybody, it's your pal Drew Dracy with another Slam Bang Wang Dang Doodle episode covering, important comics and ones I just happen to like, and some are both. Okay, I'm going to focus this on an issue, a comic that Stan Lee hated and wanted it out of continuity. Now that's some doing. I mean, what could it be, you say? Because usually, as Roy Thomas said, during the time that the whole point of Marvel epic type stories, not the collections, but, the big storylines, was to give the illusion of change, but not change. But this kind of, I don't know. We'll see. I'll share. Nick Fury, I always liked the character because he was always ubiquitous in the Marvel universe. Anytime you'd see, some a group of Hydra agents, running away, Nick Fury and the gang would pick them up after Wildcats chasing the Red Skull and crap like that. Well, so this was like the first time I ever got a new Nick Fury solo story, and I was glad they did it. It came out mid-70s. Now, you're probably saying if Stan hated it so much, why did it come out? Well, Stan was still looking over the proofs or the read-throughs. Those are like the mock-ups. These are all old terms, but they probably get used today in certain instances. But anyway, but by the mid-70s, this came out at the end of 76, he moved to California. He had done the lecture tour to colleges all around the country, and he decided to move to California. And specifically, he was still working for Marvel, but he was trying to get the Marvel brand and the characters done on television and movies, and it took a lot of doing because TV budgets just aren't that great, and it wasn't until the 2000s that we actually got special effects that caught up to our imaginations as we were kids. So he's over California, and I gotta see who is the editor-in-chief on this, because they went through a whole bunch. And editor Marv Wolfman, I guess, he was the editor-in-chief for a little while. Long story. Anyway, this came out, and Stan knew about it after the fact, and he was, furious, frankly. Jim Starlin, Howard Chaykin, home run. Two mega talents, even back then. They were still fairly green, but they knew their styles, they knew themselves, they knew how they would approach comics, and that's a hard thing for a lot of to come up with an individualistic style so soon. Most artists, like, for years they do like the straight Marvel style, and then they eventually, like Bill Sienkiewicz, he started off with the Marvel style, and then he went off and did his own thing with the wild exaggerations and all that cool shit. So, Infinity Formula has nothing to do with the Infinity Gauntlet, Infinity War, Infinity Crusade, even though it's written by Jim Starlin, and we will find out why together. Let's not squeak together. Okay, great first page. It's just got that. It's got that advertising art quality to it. That's so crazy. I remember when I bought this issue, I was like, it didn't look like a normal comic book to me. And I said exactly like that. So we see this stranger killing off someone else that we don't know about just yet. And what's great is this is a 17-page story. They had to really cut back on stories. And I could almost read this whole thing to you verbatim, but I'm not gonna. I'll try not to. Call on line 7, Colonel. Fury, don't talk. Just listen. Professor Steinberg is dead. We will now be supplying you with your Ponce de Leon serum. Madame Renoir will act as our agent in this matter. He was real short and to the point, obviously professional, which means my darkest secret, not to mention my life, are in the hands of a trained killer. Nick, what's wrong? I'm going on vacation. Blah, blah, blah. And he says, I didn't care who was running S.H.I.E.L.D. in my absence. Nope. Only one subject occupied my thoughts during this long transatlantic flight. The subject, living. You see, it all began back in World War II. In a French minefield, I imprudently stumbled into while trying to elude a Nazi patrol. It was a miracle I didn't blow myself into a jigsaw. Still, I could have cashed in my chips from the wound I received if a band of partisans hadn't found me and taken me to a nearby doctor for overhaul and repair. I gotta hand it to the old Sawbones. He did a fine job putting me back together. My one complaint was that he had a pet project that he had been working on. His name was Professor Steinberg, and he saw me as a great guinea pig to test it on. A week later, American bombers blasted the doc's house into kindling. I escaped and headed back to the outfit. I figured the doc had bought it, meaning bought the farm, which means dead. So 6 months after the war, while working at the OSS, I received a package and letter from Professor Steinberg, a package containing a small inoculator the doc claimed I needed. So I planned to have the infirmary check its contents the next day. But when I woke up that morning, I had found old Father Time had hit me with a 60-year penalty. I'd gone to bed a strapping 26-year-old non-com and woke up an 86-year-old retiree. This must have been the doc's handiwork. I later learned that I needed an annual booster to sustain my longevity serum the doc had given me when I had my accident. So without this booster, he'd die 60 years overnight. And he might be able to live forever. And after the inoculation, he was old self. So he's trying to find out who is. Like the doctor has been. He's been paying this doctor like on the sly, like not even Shield knows, because he's the director and he doesn't have to answer to anybody. So he's been dealing with this. It's extortion. And but now he finds out that it's not the doctor who's doing extorting. Now it's somebody else, a trained killer who apparently got the formula off the doctor. I just love his artwork. It's just so energetic. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but there is Medemar, or Renoir. I don't know any fucking French. I just do corny cartoon versions of it. Well, she leads into Las Vegas with a hint, and that is just Chaykin. He just takes that pop art, that ad art sensibility, and he marries it to storytelling like no one else. I mean, the closest I could think who does that sort of thing is Walt Simonson, and I even asked Walt Simonson once if they were mutually influenced by anybody, and he said no. But I think back then it was kind of like, they were both had a strong individual style that they were going to follow, and incorporating sound effects and such. And phone rings. Maybe I'll even have Fury make me an agent, because this is the guy who's trying to extort Fury. What's up? It's Fury. He's in town. Good. How the boys bring him in? It's too late for that, boss. What do you mean? Fury is already here. Harris, you've got something I want. It's time to talk turkey. That's just so badass. I mean, even if you don't know anything about Nick Fury, they make it cool. Some people, anyway, they sit down and they talk, and they're trying to work out a deal with the devil, basically, this bad guy. Hey, boss, the formula's been ripped off. What? Fury, this is your doing. Beautiful. The storytelling, again, of Chaykin, it's just great. Well, helicopter comes after him, and he says, in fact, I didn't notice it until a couple of minutes after when the chopper dived towards me. I braced myself because I knew what I'd hear next was the sound of machine gun fire. Now, I set the Burns position on my head, punched a series of buttons, and prepared to abandon my Carabo, the best metal monster the tech boys ever fixed for me. I'd miss it, but I'd miss life more if it jumped. So I jumped. I watched the Carabo's wheels retract and the jet pods fire, rocketing the car into the air of the chopper. That's a spectacular idea. Fury forever had a flying car, but he didn't use it unless it was an emergency. Did you believe? I don't believe that. And they figure he's dead. And also relax. It's going to take a while for the fire burns out. And Hang on. And some beautiful Chaykin action there. I love that. Like the end of the punch. And the blacks are so strong. I mean, it's not. It's just not the standard Marvel style, but the storytelling just keeps you going. He's like, I lost it all. Without that inoculation, I'll be dead in an hour. He has the same situation going on. Maybe join forces. What am I going to do? Maybe you ought to join forces with me. Fury. That's right, Bub. I came back, figured we could work together. Maybe we get that formula back. Okay, fair warning. Spoiler. I'm going to show the last couple pages. So if you don't want to be spoiled on this 45-year-old comic book, you only have yourself to blame if you continue. So, well, this guy's lost his shit. He goes, no, you're dead. You come back to kill me. I can't die. I won't die. So Fury throws a handful of Vegas chips at him, knocks the gun out. They start beating the tar out of each other, and Fury's getting older and older. And then Harris saw my face, and I saw his. Flips him over. Jackpot. So he crashes down to the casino below. And Fury's still there. He's still up on the upper floor. Here comes, I can't think of her name. It's so long. It's like Valentina Contessa such and such. Well, his girlfriend, just stay still. Nick, let me inoculate you. This is the formula you've been waiting for. How'd you know? Well, for over the past 6 years, I'd been an agent. I noticed this year you act oddly. I decided this year I was going to find out why. And it was you stole the serum and the suits? Why? Nick, if you don't understand why, I can't explain it to you. Let's go home. So, maybe it was just the kind of gal a man who may live forever could have. Now, Stan hated this. He hated that Nick was dealing with an extortionist for all those years, selfishly, to be frank. But, it was just... it was something he did, and that's just like Captain America. He was in suspended animation while he fell on the ice and all this stuff. This explained why Nick was still, fit and firm to fight the good fight. So anyway, Stan Lee sort of said afterwards, it doesn't matter. But I don't think it's really been referred to since. But I just figure this is the only book you need to know it in. In fact, I'd like to see. It'd be cool to see it like shot up in value because it's maybe the only mention of it. But I mean, even through the 90s, like the late 80s, Bob Harrison, Paul Neary did that Nick Fury versus S.H.I.E.L.D., and then they did the Nick Fury and his Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in the early 90s. And he was still, he was still had a little bit of, snow on the temples there, but he was still a fit fighting man. And so that's about it. Fred Hembeck, he did the funniest strip. He was showing Nick Fury like at home. He retired. He was cutting the grass, and Dum Dum Dugan and Gabe and all these other ex-Howlers show up, and they're like, well, we know you have that infinity formula, and some of the people you're around haven't really aged, so we just thought we'd hang around you a lot. And it's much funnier than I made it sound. So anyway, good book. Get it. So, and you have to mitigate the Drew effect, that this book will be worth a lot of money. So either way, it's great. You love it. It's also in the third Nick Fury Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Marvel Masterworks. Came out a few years ago. So it's canon, everybody. And hope you enjoyed this and my babbling. And buy my books on Amazon. They're great novels. Russian mobsters own bars and clubs that the lead characters, a band called The Demands, they play at, and a lot of problems arise as a result. So, see you next episode, which will be sooner than you think.